So hello and welcome to the second installment of Rockstar Games Lost Media. Similar to the first one, check descriptions for timestamps and entries. With that out of the way, let's jump straight in. In 2024, the main cast of the trio of GTA 5 were doing a 50-minute long Q&A session with Streamily, and they were taking questions from the audience via the livestream chat, and for the most part it was a very laid back, casual kind of thing. However, at around 15 minutes in, Ned Luke starts talking about the stuff you don't see during motion capture, and then he flat out says this.
And you see that stuff, it's the stuff that you don't see that's really great. And what's nuts is we had that behind the scenes camera going the whole time and they never did anything with it.
Oh, get out of here.
No, could have made an entire, I think at one point, didn't we discuss like how cool to make the making of, like to just,
yeah.
So then at this point, you could have.
Now to be fair, Stephen's comments about the making of don't really confirm if it was underway. It could have just been a casual conversation he had with Ned about the cameras. But it is strange as to why Rockstar was seemingly recording this stuff to begin with if they weren't planning on doing a making of documentary to begin with. Now there are some videos that use this footage, what you're seeing on screen, that's supposedly from GTA 5's motion capture. However, unfortunately this is not from GTA, it's actually from Uncharted 3. So we can't use this as evidence that might have slipped from Rockstar's hands. I don't know why people use this footage, but anyway, what's interesting is Rockstar have done a few behind the scenes snippets before. First of all with GTA Vice City, which shows how the city came to be and some studio recordings with the main cast, so this gives us a hint as to what Ned might have been on about with those cameras running. They also did one for LA Noire as well, which mostly just showed off the technology used for the facial animations. So there is some evidence that Rockstar may have considered doing a making of documentary at some point. Now as GTA 5's gone on, quite a few tidbits about the behind the scenes stuff have came out. I'm not talking about cut content, but actual behind the scenes stuff, like Ned Luke talking about his work doing motion capture, and I believe it was Sean Fontano saying about how Slink Johnson never bothered recording his lines as Lamar and flat out improvised the majority of them, but that is nothing to what a proper documentary could have been. It's also worth noting that in that interview Ned also said there were a lot of funny moments as well, so I can imagine there would have been a lot of outtakes. But unfortunately, it seems like we're never going to actually see any of this footage. During the development of the first Max Payne, Apogee Software were the original publishers of Max Payne. However, Take-Two Interactive had paid $10 million for the intellectual property rights to the series and had Rockstar Games deal with the console ports of Max Payne 1. And while the game did come out for PlayStation 2 and Xbox, there may have been another port that never saw the light of day, that of course being for the SEGA Dreamcast. Now Remedy themselves have claimed they have never seen Max Payne on the Dreamcast, but there may be some evidence that proves it was on the Dreamcast. First of all, we have quite a few early trailers that have surfaced from 1998 and 1999, way before Max Payne even came out, which claimed to be for the Dreamcast version, which also looked very different to the final release, which of course makes sense. This was about 3 years before the game actually came out. And there's also some clear screenshots of the game as well, at least 4 of them, which also show a completely different Max to start off with. Now if you know your gaming history, you know the SEGA Dreamcast was a failure, that's putting it politely. SEGA discontinued the Dreamcast on March 31st, 2001 and threw in the towel on the mainstream console market. And Max Payne didn't come out until later, well the console versions at least didn't come out until December 2001. So I wouldn't be too surprised if the writing was on the wall that the Dreamcast version of Max Payne wasn't going to happen because the console itself was a failure, even though Rockstar themselves were fans of the Dreamcast, so it's not entirely unbelievable this version was underway, then it got quietly cancelled. It is extremely interesting that Rockstar were clearly bullish on the Dreamcast being a very successful console. As we covered earlier, they did have plans for an Austin Powers kart racer for it, and GTA 3 itself also did start development on the Dreamcast as well. Maybe it's for the best Rockstar never went down that route, but still, it is clear that Rockstar really did want to get some games on this console. So I did initially record this part for my Buddy Lost Media video, but I've since cut it out of that, and I'm putting it here instead because I feel it's way more Rockstar oriented than Buddy related. Anyway, here it is. But there was a cancelled art book from Rockstar called Digital and Analog, The Art and Science of Rockstar Games, and this art book was discovered on the well-known German publisher Stiegel Verlag's website. This book would went extremely in-depth into everything Rockstar had ever worked on. Concept art, illustrations, inspirations, photographs and more behind the scenes stuff from their work on GTA, obviously, but also Bully, Manhunt, Midnight Club, Red Dead Redemption, and even how the stuff in their games worked as well. This is also one of the only known pictures of it, which showcases off a very early artwork for Bully, which features a different logo and a toddler version of Jimmy Hopkins wielding a water pistol. If we got this for Bully alone, just imagine what it would have contained for GTA. Now, if this wasn't enough, Rockstar would have also bundled in a DVD for your PC packed with unknown exclusive content. Considering the art book was going to be filled with art, photos and concepts, it's possible the DVD may have had some never before seen behind the scenes footage, or possibly even beta never before seen footage of all our beloved franchises. The book was confirmed to be cancelled sometime in 2010 with no official reason ever given. Now this is just my own assumption, but I believe it may have got cancelled due to copyright. The listing did say Rockstar were going to include inspirations that they used, and Rockstar, especially for the GTA series, are very heavily known to be inspired by real life brands, films and celebrities. So I can see quite a few issues arising in that department, like the in-game brand Zip is obviously Gap, but you can't just slap Gap's logo onto a book without acquiring permission from them first, and given how many brands Rockstar parodied, it probably was some legal rights nightmare. The book was very clearly finalised since even previews of a few pages can be found and read, but likely only a very tiny amount of copies were ever printed before Rockstar demanded the cancellation. So going off this, the GTA 5 behind the scenes footage and the Red Dead Redemption 2 art book, it seems that for some reason Rockstar seem to be very hesitant on showing what goes on behind the scenes. It's like they want to show the fans what goes on, but then they just decide halfway through we're not bothering with that and then just cancel it all the way. This is like the third behind the scenes project they've done, and yeah, they've just like cancelled every single one of them. At this rate, I believe the only actual behind the scenes kind of media we get is the GTA 4 art book. So Pinel et Pinel are an extremely luxurious brand who often do collaborations with all sorts of companies to make some very rare and extremely pricey projects. To give you an idea of how expensive this brand is, they're the kind of brand where you can buy card holders for nearly €1,100. Yeah, it's one of those brands. So where does the Rockstar game stuff come in with this brand then? Because it doesn't look like the kind of thing Rockstar would be associated with. Well actually, you're wrong. Because sometime in 2006, Pinel had a very brief partnership with Rockstar Games, where they crafted a very limited edition GTA trunk, which according to a translated article, the drawers and numerous compartments contain the CDs of the trilogy, and emblematic objects such as a baseball bat, a chain, and a dollar pendant, a leather covered paint bomb, a game set including dice tokens and poker cards, a leather cigar case, a torch lighter, a Dunhill punch cigar cutter, and more. So how extremely rare is this merch? Well, they only ever made 3 trunks. Not 3,000, not 300, not 30, only 3 of these were ever made. Of course it is unknown who bought these, but only one has ever been found by Redditor Undiscovered Toy, who found it in a second-hand pawn shop. That's PAWN, you dirty-minded bastards. And unfortunately the case has seen better days because it's extremely beaten. The GTA logo was half scrawled off, and it contained absolutely none of the items found in the Pinel listing. Now given the item was located in a pawn store, it's not entirely unlikely the pawnbroker may have salvaged the items individually. After all, the listing mentioned it came with necklaces and cigar cases. Both items I imagine a store like that would probably sell on their own. Complete side note, and sorry to break script here, but I am really hoping that the quality of the GTA case is not an indication of the quality you can expect from Pinel. Because given the prices I've seen on their site, I have no doubts this trunk must have cost a damn fortune. And seeing it in that kind of state, it doesn't really fill me with confidence. But we still don't have many pictures of the other items that were bundled with this trunk, and given the intense rarity of this trunk collection, we may never know what these items were like up close. Like if these items had some ultra rare Rockstar engraving on them, or if they were just items sourced from other brands. Like in one of the preview pictures of the baseball bat, we can see the brand of it is a Maruki Do34 Pro model. But I could not find an image of this specific bat. And I'm also not into baseball, so I really don't know where you go to look up bats. So admittedly, it could be easily found. I really don't know anything about baseball, so yeah. But ultimately, as I said, this kind of trunk set, incredibly rare. We don't know what the other items look like, if they were Rockstar branded or not, but yeah, we only have the trunk to go off for now. In summer 2024, an anonymous Rockstar employee revealed the Warriors was supposed to be released on the Nintendo Game Boy, in a very similar fashion to how Rockstar had remake ports of GTA and Max Payne. And while no pictures or footage has surfaced of this supposed GBA port, the journalists at Time Extension were shown proof of this game's existence, which understandably they were also requested to keep this private to avoid heat from Rockstar or Take-Two Interactive. Time Extension also mentioned they did contact some other employees from Rockstar who did confirm that Warriors on Game Boy Advance was genuine. According to the anonymous employee, the engine used was going to be the same one from Max Payne on Game Boy Advance, and the entire game was actually finished. It's playable from beginning to end, everything was done, and they even had a 4-player multiplayer mode too. Now, upon hearing that, I know many of you are probably thinking, why didn't Rockstar just release it? The game's already finished, you went through all that effort to build the game from scratch, you might as well have just released it. Well, the reason for the Warriors cancellation was the PSP was just more popular, and because Rockstar had some very poor sales on Nintendo's console. So from a financial perspective, which of course is Rockstar's overall goal, it just makes more sense to scrap a project that won't bring in any money in favour for one that will. To quote the employee directly, "We were going for 4-player co-op using the link cable and stuff. We finished the game, it was fun to play. But there it sits, never to be released because that's when the PSP was gaining momentum and we weren't really seeing good returns on Nintendo. Nintendo at the time also didn't really like promoting M-rated games all that much, and we were much more comfortable in Sony land. So we went with the Warriors Direct port on PSP. So one thing is for sure, a fully playable build of this game exists. The final build in fact. It's just in the hands of a private Rockstar employee. So that was volume 2 of some Rockstar Lost Media. So let me know down below what entry from this video you would have liked to have seen been released. Thank you for watching and have a great day.